Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. What is the very last word in the English language that you would think to use to describe an epic zombie apocalypse adventure? Possibly wholesome. But today we are going to take a look at what I consider to be the most wholesome zombie apocalypse adventure to come out. Why are we doing this? Because one of my favorite all-time webcomic artists, Minna Sundberg, a Scandinavian artist with a surprisingly extensive portfolio under her belt, has just released her latest webcomic, Journey Upstream. Now, webcomic artist, that sort of has a tang of lack of professionalism about it, and if you do dig way, way back to the beginnings of her very first webcomic, A Red Tail's Dream, her art style was slightly scruffier than it is now. But even going back well over a decade now to page 1 of A Red Tail's Dream, you still get some fantastic artwork. Good proportions. I'm sure Minna looks back on this and cringes because that's just the nature of artists, but this is high-class art from the very beginning. Graphic novel quality art. There's something about this style. I've seen it once before in a children's book about some Scandinavian or possibly Nordic folk tales. There was a ship made of 100 planks that called out to a sailor to go on adventures. There was a grist mill that churned out gold and silver depending on which way you faced it. And a bunch of fairy tales that were very Nordic flavored. My parents were really, really big on getting us books from different cultures. So we had Ananse's A Story, Nordic folk tales. I had a varied diet of literature when I was a child. But so I have seen a similar art style to hers before, but I can guarantee you there's really nothing like her artwork in modern graphic novels. This isn't the classic European noir comics, this isn't Western comics, this isn't manga. It's very distinctly Scandinavian, but also just very distinctly and originally Minna Sundberg. Anyway, her new comic, Journey Upstream, has released 7 pages on the main website. It's going to be focusing on a release schedule of dropping multiple page chapters every few weeks instead of releasing 4 pages a week, which was what she did for A Red Tail's Dream and Stand Still, Stay Silent. Now, some backstory about Minna Sundberg. She started off with A Red Tail's Dream, heavily influenced by Nordic folklore, sort of a modern-day retelling of some of these old folksy tales. It's a boy and his dog go on a multi-dimensional adventure through Nordic fairy tales, ultimately coming up against the great Nordic swan of death in an epic battle. That is one way of describing it. There are other ways of describing it. Minna created something truly original here. And the only way to experience it is to go to A Red Tail's Dream and read the comic yourself. You've got well-rounded 3-dimensional characters that art style that is the same as what she does now, but just a little bit rougher around the edges. And then she finished up that story when the boy and his dog return home victorious. I'm not offering any spoilers there. And she started on the comic Stand Still, Stay Silent. Now, Stand Still, Stay Silent is where things get odd. Like I said, wholesome is not a word that you would associate with zombie apocalypse stories. But wholesome is kind of what I've been striving for, whether I'm writing my science fantasy tragedies or writing my science fiction comedy. I was really, really working to create a wholesome read that could be enjoyed by all ages, enjoyed by the entire family. And that is something that Minna has created here too. I definitely wouldn't recommend this comic for younger ages. Despite the wholesome nature, this is a zombie apocalypse webcomic. People do die. You do see 90-year-old riding zombie super corpses. strung up on electric fences to defend the settlements. So, and people fight zombies. Like I said, but there's something about this art style, these muted earth tones, the burnt umber. It's not pastel. I'm not a fan of pastel. But there's definitely something about her art style that takes something truly horrific and makes it mentally digestible. And it doesn't hurt that her comic also focuses around the concept of highly trained super cats who defend the population from these plague-bearing zombies. Because after all, the plague is born on rats. Only mammals are affected by it. And so cats, who are the only known mammal to be naturally immune to the plague, are of course humanity's first and last line of defense against the teeny tiny zombies that come creeping into their walls. Minna put a lot of effort into making the ecology of the zombie apocalypse feel real, and I really appreciate that as a scientist. She even, as a botanist, she even put in a joke about an invasive species. Well, I suppose it's native in those areas. Trifolium, a common clover species. And I really appreciate that too. I'm an ecologist. I've worked in botany for years. I really got a chuckle out of that. But anyway, nerding aside, it was a really good one. This was a really good webcomic. I followed it from beginning to end. I bought the books when she did her fundraisers. And this comic, Stand Still, Stay Silent, when it was actively publishing, it consistently made the top 10 on top webcomics and very frequently made the top 5. I can't remember which award it was, but it was the second place contender for the award, only losing out to Shotgun Shuffle after Shotgun Shuffle deliberately copied. Yeah, Shotgun Shuffle gave a tribute to Stand Still, Stay Silent. And so, anyway, there was fierce competition for like whatever top webcomic award that was that year. Anyway, so you have a fun supernatural adventure based off of Nordic mythology. You have a heavily Nordic myth influenced zombie apocalypse story with very grounded roots in science and ecology. Then, during the pandemic, when many of us readers were hailing Minna as the prophetess that she was, which was probably just from her scientific basing, for predicting the first few stages of the pandemic. I mean, we didn't get the giant zombie trolls, but hey, the way 2021 was going, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did show up. But she in response to the political situation, she launched a Black Mirror-esque comic about cute, fluffy bunnies that live in a social credit system called Lovely People, which had beautiful artwork, all her classic hallmarks of her storytelling, and was just bone-chillingly terrifying in a way the zombie apocalypse never was, because social credit system, Black Mirror, it was just terrifying. And now she has launched out on her fourth major project, Journey Upstream, which has to deal with sapient animals going on an adventure. I will read the description here. Let's see, where'd that go? Anyway, Journey Upstream. Following the link, I had this pulled up. Okay, oops, that's Lovely People. All right, Journey Upstream. Here we go. About the comic. Journey Upstream is a very overtly Christian comic. The story follows a group of animals as they travel along the river towards the meadow of the Celestial Lamb, and on the way they meet different kinds of animals and pass through many types of places. The group symbolizes a small congregation of Christians on the path through life to life. A significant point of this focus is exploring our fallen nature. Is the core of our hearts good, or is it actually corrupt and turned away from God? As in water, face reflects face, so the heart of man reflects a man. Proverbs 29:19. The comic is free to read online online and will be updated in chunks of pages every few weeks rather than page by page every week. The story is suitable for teens and up. For younger children, I'd recommend that parents check it first. And you can go there and see the first 7 pages now and get a look at her amazing artwork. And if you've been listening to my channel at all, you know I love to reference C.S. Lewis, and I think Minna's always been a very Lewisian storyteller. She has the long-term planning of Tolkien, but her stories are very much Lewisian. So if you like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or his more mature Till We Have Faces, in fact, her story, gore and all, actually reminds me a lot of Till We Have Faces. But that's my review of Minna Sundberg's works. I might do an in-depth review. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a review of Stand Still, Stay Silent and A Red Tail's Dream, because they were both really, really great comics. And like I said, there was something special about Stand Still, Stay Silent. There has only ever been one zombie apocalypse story I've ever willingly read, and I got nowhere near the amount of enjoyment out of that one as I did out of this one. I can't even remember the other one's name. It was a manga. But Stand Still, Stay Silent, I've gone back and reread it again and again and again. I guess as a last minute fun fact, bonus bit, I'll talk about the one time Minna made a mistake that still sticks in my head. When I was reading this comic years ago, Minna did a chapter where they were exploring an abandoned building. And one of the characters passes through a doorway and puts her hand up to push aside those big plastic flaps that they have in industrial buildings to trap the heat in one room and keep it out of another room, so that, say, a forklift can still just drive under them because it's just sturdy plastic rubberized flaps hanging down from the ceiling. And the character puts her hand up to push that aside, and people started saying, "Isn't the thumb on the wrong side of her hand?" And we were all looking at it and we're like, no, it's right. It's just the angle of her elbow. And everybody's like, no, I think the thumb's on the wrong side of the hand. And I actually went to work the next day, and I went into the factory building where I probably wasn't supposed to be at that time, and I stood there in the doorway trying to hold my hand up in that position, pushing aside those flaps, trying to figure out whether the hand was drawn incorrectly or not. So Minna finally settled it. Yes, that was actually an art mistake. She misdrew the hand. I think the hand is still there if you go back to the chapter where they're examining the first hospital they get to for old books. Because that's the whole thing about Stand Still, Stay Silent. They're on a book hunt. So it's literally a group of people wandering into the zombie apocalypse to find a library. Which, hey, I survived the pre-internet era. Maybe that's why I was so attached to it. I too probably would have done that if I ran out of good reading material. But with over 500 pages into Stand Still, Stay Silent, if binging this archives, you won't be running out of good reading material anytime soon. So if you love good art, good storytelling, and a friendly debate about minor art errors, go check out Stand Still, Stay Silent. And if you're into a nice allegorical story, who knows where it's going, go check out Journey Upstream, a webcomic. And if you're interested in getting a nice chuckle, go check out the links below the video to get a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird. If you're ready to break your heart, go check out a copy of Dying Embers, Dragons, Aliens, and Things That Go Boom in the Night. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.